Welcome to the Electoral Commission Queensland's webinar about electoral expenditure caps, with information for third parties in the 2024 state general election in Queensland. A third party is anyone other than a registered political party, a candidate, or an associated entity. What are electoral expenditure caps? They are limitations on the amount of electoral expenditure that can be incurred by an election participant. Electoral expenditure caps apply to all candidates, registered political parties, and third parties that incur electoral expenditure for a state general election or by-election. Electoral expenditure has a specific definition under legislation. Please have a look at our webinar on incurring electoral expenditure for further information about what type of expenses constitute electoral expenditure. When do electoral expenditure caps apply? Each state election has a capped expenditure period. This is the period of time where the cap applies for the 2024 state general election. The capped expenditure period starts on Tuesday, 2nd April 2024 and ends at 6 p.m. on election day. Electoral expenditure incurred outside of the capped expenditure period will still need to be disclosed to the ecq per disclosure requirements, but it will not be included under a third party's electoral expenditure cap. How much is my electoral expenditure cap? This differs depending on whether you are formally registered as a third party with the ecq. Third parties who are registered with the ecq are afforded a higher expenditure cap. If you are not registered, your expenditure cap is only $6,000. This means you cannot incur more than $6,000 in total electoral expenditure across all electoral districts in Queensland. If you plan to spend more than $6,000 in electoral expenditure for the election, you will need to register as a third party with the ecq before election day. Please see our website for more information about the registration requirements for third parties and how to register as a third party with the ecq. If you have formally registered as a third party with the ecq for the 2024 state general election, your electoral expenditure cap across all of Queensland is $1,043,087.97. The electoral expenditure cap for registered third parties per electoral district is $90,748.65. Here's an example to demonstrate the caps in more detail. In this example, third party A has formally registered with the ecq for the 2024 state general election. This means that registered third party A cannot incur more than $1,043,087.97 in electoral expenditure across all of Queensland during the capped expenditure period for the election. Additionally, registered third party A cannot incur more than $90,748.65 in any one electoral district. When is electoral expenditure incurred? It is important to remember that electoral expenditure is incurred when the goods or services are supplied or provided. This may not necessarily be the same day they are paid or invoiced. For example, say you buy some election flyers before the capped expenditure period starts on 2 April 2024. If you end up distributing those flyers on or after 2nd April up to 6 p.m. on election day, the expense will still count towards your expenditure cap. Please check out our webinar about when is electoral expenditure incurred for more information and examples. What happens if I exceed my electoral expenditure cap? Non-compliance with the electoral expenditure caps is a criminal offence which carries substantial penalties, including potential prosecution. The ecq can also recover up to double the amount of expenditure that exceeded the cap as a debt to the state. The ecq has an active compliance team who monitors for compliance before, during, and after election. so you may be contacted if the ECQ identifies any potential instances of non-compliance. The maximum penalty for exceeding the electoral expenditure cap is 1,500 penalty units, which equates to more than $200,000 or 10 years imprisonment, so it is a very serious offence. This is why it's so important for you to be aware of your expenditure cap and to make sure that you don't spend more than what you're allowed to for an election. If you have any questions from this webinar, or you'd like to know where you can go for more information, the ECQ has published a comprehensive range of fact sheets on our website, which you can find at www.ecq.qld.gov.au/factsheets. You can also have a look at the legislation itself. The Electoral Act 1992 prescribes the electoral expenditure caps for state elections in Queensland, or you can contact our funding disclosure and compliance team by emailing fad@ecq.qld.gov.au or by calling us on 1300 881 665. The ECQ provides general advice only. Should you be in any doubt regarding your obligations for the election, please seek independent legal advice. Thank you very much for watching our webinar. We appreciate your time and hope that the information provided has been useful to you.